Whew, a warm welcome to everyone and to our entire Unsinkable family. My name is Tracy Hall. I am Unsinkable's Manager of Community Support, in addition to this conversation's moderator. The Unsinkable team, including myself, are grateful that you could be here. Our conversation will focus on building mental health support networks for youth in a digital space. I live, work, and play on the unceded territory of the Tsleil Okanagan people. The Tsleil Nation is a transboundary nation extending across the 49th parallel and consists of 7 communities on the Canadian side and 1 confederated tribe on the United States side. Land acknowledgements recognize that settlers and people who are not part of Indigenous groups are visitors of Turtle Island, and they express a commitment to past history, current realities, and future relationships. You can start the reconciliation process by reading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada report, and a link will be detailed in the comments. Now, we are who we are, and we're able to do what we do in the mental health space because of our partners. So thank you to Good Life Fitness, our founding partner, Sun Life Financial, our champion partner, Straight Up Health, Bubble Skincare, Retreat Candle Co., and Snapped, our strategic partners, and York University, our knowledge expert. Now, speaking of knowledge experts, today we are joined by Dr. Agnès Berthelot-Riffard, Assistant Professor at the School of Health Policy and Management at York University. So welcome, Dr. Agnès. I'm hoping that you can please let the audience know who you are, the scope of your research, and some resources available to our viewers.
Yes, thank you, Tracy, for having me today on the Unsinkable team. So I am Agnès Berthelot-Riffard, as you said, and I am a political philosopher by training who work currently in the field of youth mental health. So I am really interested by meeting all the panelists today. What I am doing exactly, at this time, I am conducting two projects regarding Black student mental health. The first one is a pan-Canadian research project using an intersectional lens on it's basically a community-based participatory research. So my main research is to create evidence-based data regarding the social determinant of health of Black students, and also we will focus on an intervention component. I'm not a clinical by training, but I have a really important interest for the fact that we need to develop a psycho-educational tool in order to support on the capacity building of Black students to help them to overcome their mental health issue, but first at all, to help them to be able to identify what they are going through and how the academic setting is really, sometimes I can say really bad for them in terms of, because of the racism, because of the epistemic injustices. So it's my research, my main research. I created a community organization, a community-based organization called Black Student Mental Health Project. And within this organization, I am conducting a research creation project in order to raise awareness regarding this issue. So basically, I am really motivated by the mental health of Black youth, particularly, more specifically. In terms of resource, I can say that there is many new resources. Particularly, I saw last time that the Canadian Mental Health Association launched a new initiative dedicated to youth, particularly Black youth. This initiative is called Bounce Back. It's a free self-help program. And there is also another initiative that I want to highlight. It's Rise Up. Rise Up is a mental health support for Black youth. Particularly, they use apps. So it's really accurate with our conversation today.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Inez. I'll have those resources in the comments for our viewers. Thank you so much for sharing. So the beauty of a candid roundtable conversation like this one is that we can't necessarily predict where the conversation will go. However, today's discussion will center around mental health, Black experience, and personal stories. And this means that there's a potential for us to connect because we resonate with what's going on. It equally means that there's a potential that we may be triggered based on our own past experiences. And it's okay to not be okay. All I ask is that you take care of yourself first, always. And our friends at Kids Help Phone and Texas Crisis Line, crisis text line, apologies, are there should you need immediate support. Feel free to screenshot the resources that you see on your screen, and throughout the conversation, we'll be detailing them in the comments. Now, at Unsinkable, our intention is to engage in real conversations from a healing and hopeful lens, and the right time to engage in this conversation is up to you, the viewer. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce our panelists. So we have Dr. Kojo Stevenson, social media content creator, mental health nurse practitioner, psychotherapist, and host of What's Good with Dr. Kojo. We've got Stephen Sharp Jr., fashion and lifestyle creator, founder of Nobius Creative Studios, mental health advocate, and host of Sanctum Podcast. We've got Wanika Matthews, Unsinkable Community Champion, speaker, mental health advocate, community healer, senior peer mentor, and co-host of Eva Win Podcast. And of course, we've got our York University expert, Dr. Inez with us. So thank you, panelists, for all being here. I would love to get to know each of our panelists. So we'll just go around and hopefully you can let the audience know who you are while touching on the mental health stigmas or barriers you've experienced. And I'm hoping that we can start with you, Dr. Kojo.
Okay, awesome. Once again, thank you so much for the platform and the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Kojo Stevenson. I'm a mental health content creator and entertainer. I have a background, in nursing. I have a doctorate of nursing practice degree with a specialty in psychiatry. So over the past, 5 to 6 years, I've either been in school teaching students or practicing with actual patients. And I've had a firsthand experience, getting to see what issues affect the youth, what issues affect their parents. And it's given me a chance to kind of reflect and, take a look at myself and see where some, areas that I can improve on. And as I've taken all these experiences and put it online, I've gained a following that wants to know more and more about how we can break the stigma. So I'm excited to do things like this, and I'm excited to just learn from people, because as I learn, I'll be in a better position to help, to change the narrative. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Kojo. Now, I'm hoping that our audience can kind of get to know you better by doing some rapid fire questions. Are you interested?
Let's get it. I love it.
Okay, awesome. So you can only pick one social media platform to use for the next 10 years. What are you going to choose and why?
Facebook, and the engagement. You would think something else, but the engagement on there is super strong. I'm hearing back from people in real time, so I feel like that's a platform where I can, get the best look at what's going on with people, because I want it to be timely, because, as we know, in the span of a week or two, so much changes in the news or current news or events or in the mental health landscape. So I feel like with Facebook, I have a better handle on what's going on, so that way when I put out my information, it's not like outdated. I want to be, on point with all the mental health information I put out.
Amazing. Well, wow. I was not expecting Facebook, and I love your answer. Another question for you. Can you describe your personality in just one word?
Laid back.
Oh, okay. I love it. And then lastly, who is a social media influencer that you would recommend for our audience?
Great question. I would probably recommend Gary Vee. He's not really a mental health content creator, but he's very good when it comes to mindset, and whether he knows it or not, he does a lot of cognitive reframing. He'll take a situation that is, negative, and then he'll, channel that energy into something that's positive and productive. So it's not really in line with mental health, but I think he does a lot of things that, we teach our patients in therapy, and he has a unique way of connecting to the culture. So I think if you can do that, you can make a positive impact on a lot of people's lives.
Oh, amazing. I'm hoping that that goes into our comments so that our audience can check them out. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Now, Stephen, I'm hoping that you can let our viewers know who you are as well as your experiences around mental health stigmas or barriers.
Yes, hi, thank you so much. Once again, I'm Stephen Sharp Jr. I am a content creator and run my own agency, Novius Creative Studios. I consider myself a mental health advocate just because of the platform that I built on social media. And it didn't start out that way, but I think through my own personal experiences with mental health and I describe it as kind of reaching the end of my rope, essentially, and seeking help that, I didn't have people around me like Dr. Kojo, who, is a Black man who speaks openly about, mental health and, the ups and downs that come with it. So I essentially wanted to do that for my platform, my community. It's led to some really great things like Sanctum, the podcast that I run, which basically just highlights people's stories just from a very authentic point of view. And the whole point of it was not to solve that issue specifically, knowing that, I'm not a clinician, I can't do that, and I know what I want to, honestly. But meeting people where they are in their journey and finding connection there. I'm just excited to be here.
We're excited to have you here. Thank you so much. And it sounds to me like, you and Dr. Kojo, you're finding your lanes of how you can help people based on the strengths that you have, which is really amazing, because I think what we need to also realize is the pie is big and that there's enough to go around, right? So it's just amazing to see kind of the different areas that you're both kind of touching on. I've got some rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, amazing. So the first question is actually going to be the same as Dr. Kojo. So you can only pick one social media platform for the next 10 years. What do you choose and why?
This is like a weighted question because one, I want to say TikTok, but I also think Pinterest of all places.
Ooh, okay.
It's one of those platforms that it's just been very consistent, and they've been adding a lot of new features, they've incorporated video, but it's all cataloged and archived. So you can, go back to certain things and, pull them all together and still have that community aspect. So I would say Pinterest.
Okay, I like it. Also not what I was expecting. So yes, I'm all about this. Do you have a favorite quote?
Oh, yes. It's a Maya Angelou quote, and it's basically how I live my life. She says, and I'm paraphrasing, she says, no one will remember what you did or what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I take that to heart. I'm like, when people come to see me or come to my platform, I want them to feel wanted and joyful and have space to be themselves. And even in my personal life, I don't want someone to leave me and feel like I was a drag, I guess.
Totally, yeah. Definitely words to live by. I know exactly what you're saying when you say Maya Angelou and how do you make people feel. So that resonates with me. And then for you as well, same as Dr. Kojo, who's a social media influencer that you would recommend to our audience?
The Korean vegan. She's a chef, obviously, but she speaks very candidly about mental health and her experiences, not just as a Korean woman, but just about life in general. And she speaks so candidly about it. And I in her content, I see myself, and I've had a lot of aha moments with her content.
Oh, amazing. Oh, I'm definitely going to have to check her out because I'm always looking for something new. So thank you so much.
And those recipes are fire.
Oh, okay. Don't have to tell me twice. All right, Wanika. So I'm hoping that you can let our audience know who you are, as well as touching on some of the mental health stigmas or barriers that you've experienced.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here amongst you all and the fellow panelists. I am an author, a speaker, a community healer, and also a community peer mentor with the Community Healing Project of Toronto. And even with my own experiences, mostly that's why I got interested in mental health because having to go through trauma and growing up early and having to help, raise my younger siblings and also, going through trauma and loss, I felt like I had to be strong for everyone else, and I'm not, paying attention to my own needs and not setting enough boundaries. And also, I don't want to let other people down, so I'm constantly saying yes, even if it kills me. And it wasn't until recently that within the last year or so, that I realized that it's very important that I set those boundaries for myself, and I make sure that I'm sorry, I'm making sure that I am setting those boundaries so that I can put myself first, so that I can help others. And when I got into the community aspect of things a few years ago with the OPACE, I'm not sure if anyone has heard of the Ontario Provincial Advocacy Office for Children and Youth. It had gotten shut down, I believe, in 2018. That's where my niche really kicked in for mental health and dealing with youth who are in the justice system, mostly BIPOC youth, so youth of color, youth who are in the LGBTQ community, youth who are Native, who are going through a lot of things, and youth who are in the justice system and have trouble navigating that, how it's affecting them, youth in the care system. So all of that, how their experiences are affecting them mentally, and what they need in the community is what really pushed me into getting into community work and with mental health. And even currently right now, as a peer mentor, supporting youth in communities across Toronto, where we talk about the effects of gang violence in the communities, the effects of mental health, and not being able to speak up or have safe spaces to as a youth to express yourself and be heard and to be seen in these communities. So what the program does, it helps to train these youth on different aspects of mental health, community safety, depression, anxiety, fight, flight, and freeze, and all these things that people don't really speak about, especially with younger generations, and how it might seem cliche, no one really wants to talk about it. Those things, what we train them to do, and then they run the workshops for the youth in their own communities. So passing it forward, that we can be a mentor. And that's what happened to me. I started off as a healer in training. Then I became a peer mentor where I support the healers as well as supporting the participants. So that's where my niche lies. Also with Unsinkable as well, and joining as a community champion. All of that I feel like aligns for me, and in conjunction with my own experiences, that's what really keeps me going with the mental health. Sorry if we started rambling on.
No, you're not rambling. This is amazing. And I love how you touched on paying it forward. I think that's probably how we all show up in the space of wanting to help, especially when it comes to people of color, right? It's our own experiences, but we want to pay that forward so that it's not just us reaching out, but it continues onwards. And so it's like that domino effect, that positive domino effect, which is absolutely amazing. Of course, I support it. And I love that you also touched on the fact that, you have to take care of yourself too, right? It's really hard sometimes in that community role to remember to take care of ourselves. But it's that metaphor that they say, the airplane, right? The airplane's going down, put your mask on first, then put the mask on other people. Easier said than done, but I totally resonate with you. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Winika, rapid fire.
Ready.
Ready? All right. So you probably already know what the first question is going to be. It was the same for Dr. Kojo and Stephen, but you can only pick one social media platform for the next 10 years. What do you choose and why?
I'm only saying this because of what happened in recent events. I'm going to say Twitter, because when everything got shut down, Twitter was the only living platform. So I'm just like, I could still stay in the know if everything else shuts down, because Facebook owns everything. They're the king. They have everything under them. So when Facebook went down, sadly, so did the rest of the world, and everybody ran to Twitter. So I'm like, I'm going to be over at Twitter when everyone's running over, and I'm going to stay over on Twitter's side.
100%. Who's prevailing when everything's going down? Twitter. Okay. That's fair. So, Winika, what's one thing that you can't be without?
One thing that I can't be without is music. And, I say that because, I have literally a chain here in remembrance of my mother. It's a music note. And one of the last things she told me was, I can't live without music. And as I got older, I literally realized that I can't live without music. If you see my Spotify playlist, there's a playlist for every emotion. I have endless music everywhere, and I just love music so much. So I feel like I couldn't live without my music.
You know what? That's totally true. Music is so powerful, has the power to connect and also heal, right? And I'm sure there's probably memories that you have of your mother based on certain music that you listen to, right?
Oh, yeah. Sunday mornings, cleaning the same playlist over and over.
There you go.
I remember. Yeah. So most
Amazing.
definitely.
Okay, last question here. So, social media influencer that you would recommend for our audience, do you have one?
Wow, that's a tough one because I do watch a lot. Who do I always watch? Oh, that's a tough one. And now I'm really put on the spot because I can't even think right now because I have like, different profiles that I watch. I not specifically people, but like it's pages. I love to watch like different motivational pages and
Is there a page that's coming to mind when you think of this?
I honestly don't pay attention to like the actual tag, but there are ones where it's always talking about like I'll see random ones from like Kevin Hart. Actually, Kevin Hart actually gives a lot of great ones too.
Yeah.
Not sure if he's the one that said recently with the quote, no, it's not his quote, but he was talking about it. He who says he does, and he who says he doesn't, he who says he can, and he who says he can't, are usually always right. And that's what recently stuck with me. So I'm constantly scrolling, and that's what, it's nothing specific. I'm always looking at random stuff on Explore.
And that's all right.
But that is what stuck with me recently because
Amazing.
If I always say that I can or can't, I will never know either way because I never even tried. So
there you go. There you go. And sometimes we need those reminders, right, as we go along through life. And I love that, you're having multiple kind of resources coming in at you. So amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to our panelists for sharing their stories and insights. So we're going to move into our roundtable discussion. And our audience is invited to send in any questions they have in our comment section. So please do that as we're talking, and we'll get to them as we go along. Now that we have an understanding of your individual experiences, including barriers or stigmas that you faced, I wonder, to our panelists, how would you describe resilience and how has it shown up in your life?
I guess I'll go first. When it comes to resilience, I describe it as, making an intentional effort to, get from one day to the next, to get from Sunday to Monday to Tuesday, back around to the next week, being tenacious, refusing to take no for an answer. And it's a trait that a lot of us have that we don't really recognize that we have it, because we're so, moving forward and we don't give ourselves enough credit for that. So I would say resilience is, a dedication to moving forward while also giving yourself grace, to make mistakes and, to not be perfect, because, resilience doesn't mean that you're perfect. Sometimes people think that to be resilient, you have to be a certain type of thing, but we're all doing things that we're probably not giving ourselves credit for.
Totally. Is there something that you're doing that recently that shows your resilience?
Yeah, I would say probably the thing that I'm doing right now that would describe that is just trying out different forms of, content. I've seen that making like the little raps work, the skits work, but now I'm trying to expand to make 3-minute videos. I'm trying to maybe do more acting, or maybe I'm trying to role play or use a popular trend and flip it, because it might be able to reach a certain target audience that I haven't tapped into yet. So by being creative, I would say it keeps me in the game longer, and I would say that's like a form of resilience on my end.
I love that. Stephen or Wanika, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love what you said, Dr. Kofi. I think resilience and I feel like also bravery are very tied together. It's like that resilience doesn't mean that bad things aren't going to happen to you. It's that motivation to continue on. And like despite everything, like I think of myself and how I've been resilient in my own life of, not having certain resources, not having certain connections to get to where I want to be or where I want to go. but still rising to the occasion.
I love that. What are your thoughts, Sunika?
I definitely agree with you, Stephen and Dr. Kojo. And with me, just, continuing to push forward is how, my resilience has shown up through everything, through trauma, through, me having a disability and not feeling like seen or heard because people haven't heard about obstetrical brachial plexus injury. And it's a physical disability that many people still don't understand, and having it from birth and having to navigate without much resources or support for myself nor my parents or even my siblings, just having to push through all of that, and even through school, and still pushing myself to go through things just to make it every single day, is where it has shown up, from my education to finding work to getting into the community and finding my niche, and pushing and knowing that I have a purpose. And every day when I feel like I can't do this, or why am I even here, and just going back and remember the people that I've impacted. Stephen, you said that that quote earlier from Maya Angelou, like, people will remember how you made them feel. When I remember how I've made people feel, that's what kind of makes me keep going as well, and helping me to remember my purpose and keep pushing and be resilient.
Oh, yes, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Now, Dr. Inez, I'm just wondering, does resilience show up in your research? And follow up to that question, is there anything that we can be doing to foster resilience, whether it's within ourselves or in others?
That it's a great question. The first thing I would add is the fact that generally we talk about resilience, but we do not question what it is exactly. Because we tend to think that, being resilient is being strong, stay strong, keep going, do not complain. But for me, being resilient is, first of all, to be able to recognize, to acknowledge our own vulnerability.
Okay, yeah.
If we cannot do that, we cannot be resilient, because we have to acknowledge that we cope with a special issue, and we have to overcome that.
Oh, I love that.
And sometimes we tend to understand resilience as strong, being strong. In my research, the notion of resilience is studied with the definition of mental health. I saw that when I did some focus group 2 years ago, that for many Black students, for many Black youth, resilience, mental health is something Western. So they do not see mental health as something related to the Black community, because the Black community is seen as strong. We have to be strong. So I think that in my research that's come with some question: how Black students perceive mental health and mental illness, how they distinguish between both. What part of this perception come from their family norms, come from the society, because the society tends to address some stereotype to the Black population, and we can see that in the healthcare system. We are strong. We are seen as people who can bear pain, can bear many things. So, so that's a question on how they recognize their mental health state, and how they recognize that their well-being is affected. And I think we can foster resilience if we deconstruct the stigma associated to mental health.
Okay.
We can foster that in this way, and also we can foster that if we acknowledge that, and if we are able to talk about our mental health issue. It's the reason why online space storytelling is really, really important.
Totally.
So we have to open places in order to foster that and raise awareness. So I see that in this way.
I love that. And maybe this is the space that's happening right now, right? We're creating that space, we're having that conversation. And I love that you talk about, getting that understanding. That's really amazing. I do have a question that's coming in live, so I'm just going to throw that in there. So I have a question that says, I am a freshman in high school and I've been really struggling with separating from my phone. How do you set boundaries with social media? So while it can help us, how do we then set those boundaries, especially for youth?
I think something that helped me specifically was, actually turning off all my notifications. And as scary as that sounds, and I think also to layer onto that, it's not simply the act of turning off your notifications. It's this understanding that nothing is as urgent as we make it out to be. I do the same thing with my emails. Like, I don't answer emails right when they come in. Like, I am not in cancer research, so there's nothing that if I miss an email, it's okay.
Yeah.
Same thing with my social media. Like, I need to exist outside of a digital space. I can have a digital platform, but understanding that my life, the majority of my life, is spent being in the present, being with my friends, being with my family, like being in my space that I created, and working or just being myself. So I think also just like understanding what your relationship is to social media, figuring out why you feel so connected to it, and then taking the action to slowly pull away or disconnect. That really helps me a lot.
Yeah, I'm noticing a couple of our panelists are nodding along, and I'm wondering, Dr. Kojo, Anika, like, what are your thoughts? I feel like you might agree with some of the things that Stephen is saying.
Most definitely I do, because sometimes it's hard. I'll catch myself, maybe it's 3:00 in the afternoon, and then all of a sudden it's 5. I was like, what was I doing for the last 2 hours of my life? Like, it just passed by. How do I separate myself completely away from social media? I watched, I forgot what the movie was called, but it was on Netflix and it scared me. Like, and it was all about social media and people who used to work for these social media platforms, and sometimes they want you, the algorithm, I forgot how to pronounce it, but they purposely want you to be drawn in, and that's how they make their money. That's how they, that's how they get more views. They want you to do that. So, you said turning off your phone, Stephen, and literally separating yourself away. And what I find that helps me is, doing the things that you love as well, and tapping into your skills and the hobbies that you love to do, whether it be painting, things that kind of separate you from the screens, things that you're doing, like reading, things that you love to do away, whether it be knitting, crocheting, something away from the phone itself. And sometimes it's hard, like even if you put your phone down away from you, but you're constantly, whether you have the flash on completely blinking, obviously blinking all the time and, going off, turn it like completely off and try to tap into the things that you love so that you can separate yourself and get into yourself and get off of the social media world, because it is virtual, and you're tapping into the lives of others. And sometimes, you don't know what you're putting onto yourself in your own mind. And, sometimes tapping into like a little bit of comparison or just even the traumas that happen across the world, like secondhand, or I don't even know what it's called, when you just feel what everyone else is feeling online because of everything that you're watching, everything that's going on in the world. And it can be a lot. So, literally separating yourself and just tapping in and just getting into what you love, listening to music, dancing, working out, that to separate yourself can really be helpful. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I admittedly don't know the last time I turned off my phone, but I'll keep that at the top of my mind after this conversation, to turn off my phone every once in a while. Dr. Kojo, I saw you nodding along. Do you want to add to this? You're on mute.
You can hear me now?
Yep.
Awesome. I completely agree with both of the panelists before me. Just like Wanika was saying, you're taking out so much, collective trauma from the things that are happening in the world. And a lot of people don't know that you could actually even get PTSD from things that you've heard or seen. It doesn't have to be like direct, like happening to you in real time. So we have to protect our brains. And like Stephen said, with the boundaries of social media, You have to let people know that it's not normal to be able to reply so fast to everything. And you have to set those boundaries rather sooner than later. Because sometimes people will be upset that you didn't get back to them all day, but you've had a million messages, right? And I have followers. I had a recent exchange with a follower on Facebook, and they said they were going to unfollow because they DM'd me 2 weeks ago, and then somebody jumped in the conversation and said he has 300,000 people following him on Facebook. He can't get to every single DM. So some people understand, but some people still feel. I'm not sure if they feel entitled to like your direct time, or if they think that I'm not even sure what their rationale is, and it's not to the point where I want to judge them. I respect where they're coming from, but like I have to stand for myself and say, hey, first of all, I don't even reply to messages from a legal standpoint, right? But I put out the content in an entertaining way. Hopefully, it's educating you about something, and hopefully, it can motivate you to go seek professional help. Like that's the intent of my content, But not that I'm able to give you therapy or medication advice via DMs, because you still can't do that. But some people don't understand, so you let people know, and if people are upset and then they leave because of that, then I'll say, hey, I did my best for you, and hopefully now I'm going to focus on the people who want to get the information. But you have to set those boundaries sooner than later, or you're going to be struggling because you're going to feel like you have to please your community, or you might get caught up. And it happens to me where I'll get caught up just scrolling on my phone. I'm not sure why, because there's an addictive nature to likes and comments and followers. But at some point, you want to remember that you were a human being before social media took off, and you were going outside and interacting with people and having that human connection in real time. So I would say that those are all things that you want to keep in mind.
Definitely. Oh, yes. And Dr. Inez, I'm sure that you're probably seeing this coming up in your research. I would love to see or hear your thoughts.
But in my research, I do not work directly on social media, but it seems that social media could be it could be a source of stress, of course, because we see the life of other people, and that's increased. We want to do the same thing. People tend to do the same thing, and that's increase the notification. People are waiting for appreciation. So of course there is that could be a source of stress, but that could also, social media could also foster a positive environment, particularly when we talk about mental health. The fact that on the negative side, for example, social media can contribute to many mental health issues. For example, if we take the pics posted on Instagram that convey, for example, Eurocentric standards of beauty, and women young girl can be hypersexualized, and that can create behavior and increase behavior, such as eating disorder and so on. But on the other hand, it's really interesting to use the social media if we can set up the boundary and use it in a good way, because that could be also powerful sources of awareness, to raise awareness regarding some issues, some social issues. So it's the reason why I think it's a matter of use, of the way in which we use that.
Totally. And I think you've touched on some really good points there. One is comparison. So to our panelists and to you, Dr. Inez, I wonder, with that word comparison often being correlated with social media and often in a negative light, what are you doing to kind of change that narrative?
I've personally had experiences like with the comparison piece, and I fell victim to it, and I had to change the people who I was following, because I'd follow all these influencers and be like, why do they, like, how come, like, I'm working so hard, how come I can't have that, or, I'm working so hard on my fitness, how come I can't get there yet? And a lot of the times people are posting what they want you to see. You're not seeing the behind the scenes of what they're really going through, the struggles that they're facing. They're not always talking about, the tough stuff that they're going through. You're only seeing the good. So when people are just posting all the good stuff and you're wondering why, it's because you don't know everything that they're having to go through and struggle through to get to what they're posting to you. So what I had to do was literally take social media breaks, not just turning off my phone, but going like MIA on social media. And that I did that for my own mental health. And sometimes it was a struggle because it's just like, damn, like I can't even I'm so used to just opening my phone randomly, checking something quickly, putting it back down. But if I deactivated my accounts, I can't do that. At that time, like I sometimes take some time to journal and really get into why I may feel those ways. And and remember, it was said earlier on, is like your intention, like what are you really using social media for? So you mentioned that earlier as well. Why are you on social media? And Dr. Agnes, you mentioned that people can use social media. It can be it's based on your use, like how do you use it? So me, when I take these breaks and come back, I have to think of what it is that I'm doing when I come back. Like what is the game plan? Why am I here? Just to endlessly scroll watching other people's lives and comparing myself, or am I here to make a difference and connect with people and network like what social media is meant to? So and yes, we do check in on things that are happening and and other people and keep connected. But when I find myself comparing and just not using social media for what it's for, I take those breaks maybe like a week. Sometimes I took a month off. People call me crazy. Like, how could you really be off social media for a month? I'm like, because I've tapped into myself. Like I'm really getting into what I love to do and just kind of turning a blind eye. Like I'll check the news, on their web pages, but I'm not going to go sitting on social media and just endlessly scroll, because I know what that's doing to my own mental, and that's also bringing into the fact of being very self-aware and how it affects me personally. I've grown a lot since then. I mean, like this has started from like years ago, but now that I know as soon as I'm about to do that, okay, I need to unfollow this person because I don't like how I'm making a negative like connection to what I'm seeing. I need start following some inspirational pages, start following art pages since you love art, start following music people since you love music, start following things that you love to do so that you don't feel any way because you are feeling motivated to do what you love to do every day.
Exactly. And I think you touched on a really good point, which is, why am I here? Right? So why am I here? Why am I interacting with these pages? And really having understanding of, it's not just a passive thing that we engage with, but there's actually an effect on us, but we also play a part in deciding what is going to affect us. Amazing. Dr. Kojo, Steven, any thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely have thoughts on this. And I'm not the most, concerned with other people, myself. I kind of just do my own thing. But, just being on social media kind of lends itself to you, kind of comparing yourself to other people. And a quick personal story. I know when my team, they send me reports on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, when we hit a certain number, my team was like, oh, you have the #1 psychiatry personal brand, online brand in the world, because we got that many followers. And at that point, that's when I started to like recognize how many followers I had compared to people. I wasn't really counting numbers before, but then it became kind of like a competition where I was like, oh, like I need to stay on top. And then I'm like, you know what? It's not even about that. It's about the people. It's about the community. It's about the DMs. It's about the engagement. So what I did for myself, I just stopped checking analytics. And you have to check the analytics because you need to know what videos are working. What do people want to see? Did they not like a video with something kind of offensive? And there's so many different communities I advocate for. So I need to know that I'm not doing something that is like inadvertently like offensive. So you need to check. But now it's more so kind of outsourcing that, or telling my team, hey, every Friday you all check the numbers and let me know what's going on, instead of checking, like, because I used to check daily. Like I wake up in the morning and check how many followers I had. And then I'm like, if I don't cut this, it's going to like be reflected in the content that I'm trying to post for followers, instead of I'm trying to post for the original reason why I first started, to help people. So I think it can happen to anybody, and you have to not be ashamed if you start to kind of feel like you're falling into that trap. But instead, reverse course, be humble, have people around you who can kind of check you and say, hey, remember why we started this? Like, remember, like the people who, like the kid in Iowa who wakes up and they go on my page and refresh and see what I posted. Like, if you focus on that one person, that's what I do. I'll focus on like some imaginary person who wakes up and like they check my page. If I just make content for him or her, I'll be fine, and I don't worry about anything else in the back end.
Oh yeah, definitely. So like Wanika said, kind of why am I here? But on the flip side, who am I doing this for, right? You're doing this for the community. You're doing this to help. And I love the fact that you've also kind of touched on like breaks as well. So Wanika, you're taking a break completely from social media. Dr. Kojo, you're kind of enlisting your team to say, hey, I'm not going to check out these analytics because it's a daily thing. I'm taking a break from this to protect myself and also create the best kind of content, the one that is helping and impactful. So super cool to kind of see like similar things, approaches, but in different ways. Steven, what about you?
It's funny that I did this hybrid of what Dr. Kojo did and Wanika.
Okay.
Like I found myself checking like analytics a lot and ended up having to really separate myself. I also don't check analytics very often because again, I focus on who I'm creating content for, and I create content with intention. And I'm very careful about what I say because like, and also I set myself up a certain measure of success that doesn't involve numbers.
Yeah.
If I put up a post and I talk about something that's very vulnerable and something that I'm trying to encourage, and I get at least one comment, just one, that someone's just like, hey, this is what I needed, that's success for me. That means that my job is done, and like I'm good, I'm all good. But also like what Wanika said, like, setting just like setting boundaries, and also you noted something and I picked up on it. Like you noticed what your trigger was. You noticed that like when you were comparing yourself and being like, oh, why am I doing this? And you were like, wait, I'm gonna stop, and we're stopping this. And that's something that it takes a lot of discipline to catch yourself in that state of mind, because it can really spiral out of control. But yeah, I go through my follower lists and I make sure that whoever's in the things that I'm consuming, that in the feeds that I'm consuming are making me feel happy, or making me feel thoughtful, or just with the good vibes, honestly. And I go through it consistently. But yeah.
Oh, I love that. Kind of staying on top of it too, right? Not letting that slide. I think that's actually a really important point, because I think sometimes we get to a point where maybe we're overwhelmed or it's too much and we just start making changes, but it's doing it consistently, checking in with ourselves to say, is this still working? Which is amazing. So kind of that maintenance piece on why or how we're engaging with social media, and on the flip side, how we want other people to kind of perceive us too. Just in regards to kind of image standards, I'm curious to know, just as public people on social media, kind of what are you doing to create realistic image standards for youth that are interacting on your pages?
I do this with my editing. Like, I don't edit my physical features. Any editing that I do is purely creative. And that was done very purposefully, because of the standard of beauty that exists, that the opportunities that people can take to create their own reality. And while that can be very cool in a creative sense, I think there needs to be some sort of awareness around the message that we're putting out to other people who consume this content. So yeah, I don't edit my physical features, including blemishes. I mean, if I have like a giant spot on my face, I'm probably gonna edit it out. But like, it's very minimal. Like, I'm not like creating a new waist and like broadening my shoulders and like chiseling my jaw. Like, people do that, and that's so harmful, because again, like, people who aren't mindful about who they're following and the content that they're consuming will see that and they're like, well, why can't I have this? How did they get this? Like, this is impossible. I've been going to the gym every single day. Why don't I look like this?
Yes.
And that's creating this like false narrative in people's brain, and that's not healthy at all.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're recognizing where you play a role. And what you're saying is like, we're not going to edit these features because really people are a spectrum, right? We all show up differently. Even us right now are all beautiful in our own rights. And so we need to showcase that. We need people to see that. Dr. Kojo, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, just because you are on social a lot. Are you editing your features?
I know I don't know how to edit my features. I don't know how to do that at all. But I will say that as I've been more prolific with my content and posting, so much more, I take note of lighting. Like lighting is important for the algorithm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. So I always make sure that the lighting is good, so that the content comes out great. So I want my page to look aesthetically pleasing. But if you just look at my page, you might think that like maybe like I look all great and like the house looks great. No, like I do this on days where I have a housekeeper who comes to help me out, and then when she cleans, that's like the perfect day to make content. And then where people, I guess, where they can really get the real me is when I go on IG stories, right? And I'll say, hey guys, what's up? I just made this skit. Hope y'all enjoy it. I'm a little bit tired, blah, blah. This is what's going on. My housekeeper helped me out. I was able to record it at this time. So I kind of explain it and take people through the process so that they can see that, no, it's not like perfectly curated. Like I'm just a regular person, but I capitalize on the times of the day when I'm not tired, right? Or I tell people, hey, like without a housekeeper, like I wouldn't be able to make this content because after I see patients and I try and write down ideas, like I'm too tired to clean my house or do dishes, or I don't have any energy to like my house is going to be a mess. So just letting people know what's going on behind the scenes, maybe posting a blooper here and there. I think it'll let people know, oh, wow, like, okay, so this is what goes on, and then this is how it actually comes out, eventually. So I think just kind of taking your community through that journey is very helpful.
Amazing. Yeah. And I love that you're recognizing that you want to show up as your best self, of course, right? So that we can put out great content, but you're also recognizing that there are different facets of you. And I love that you're being transparent with your audience, saying like, listen, obviously I'm going to take advantage of when the cleaner comes because the place is clean. You're not going to be distracted by anything else. You get to focus on me. But that's really cool because I think sometimes there are those pages that are so heavily curated that you're like, how is it possible to maintain this? It's not. And you're showing people, hi, I'm also human. I am on social. I'm giving you something aesthetically pleasing, but I'm human. So important. Wanique, I would love to know your thoughts.
So for me, it took me a while to come to this. So I realized that I really had to, because I have a physical disability. I mentioned it earlier, called obstetrical brachial plexus injury. And it was a birth injury that occurred where, I'd gotten stuck my shoulder and the doctor pulled my head so hard. He pulled 5 major nerves from my spinal cord, causing physical damage that's permanent for the rest of my life. So when it came to posting myself on social media and just taking pictures, I'd purposely turn on my left side because it's on my right. So I'd always call my left side my good side. And I was writing my book from 2009 to 2016, 17. And I realized that if I'm going to be writing a memoir about my whole life and how my injury affected me, how is that doing any good for people who are going to find me, who are like me, who have this injury, and I'm not even showing myself? So I realized that, no, like, even though it causes me a bit of anxiety first due to the bullying I endured and stuff like that growing up, and how some of the things really stuck with me, I had to really push myself to actually show my arm and not be ashamed or not be embarrassed of it like what it was made to be as I grew up and as I navigated through the world, through school and through education systems and stuff. So I realized I had to be real. I had to show myself. I had to turn and show my arm and not worry, because people used to take like videos and pictures of my arm on the bus, and I'd catch them, or I'd send like my friends who are with me to go look behind them to see if they really had Snapchat open taking videos of my phone, because no one holds up their phone maybe like this you know, or straight up like this and says they're reading something. It was literally up like this, and I'd send my friends to go look to see if they really are, and they would be. So it would make me so self-conscious. I would start wearing hoodies to stick in my I stick my arm in my sweater and make it look like normal, so no one would realize. So I would start to show my arm, like sleeveless t-shirts. I started wearing like strapless shirts and stuff like that, just so that I can be real and put myself in that position to be myself. Like, why do I need permission from the world to be myself? You know, why do I need to feel like, oh, they might not accept me? And when I do that, the people who have the same injury as me and other people with disabilities, like, oh my God, you're so strong. And oh my goodness, I can't believe, like, I feel so much more comfortable being myself and showing myself and being holistically myself on social media. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm still going through the process too. Like, you have no idea. Like, I'm still struggling in myself. But you know what? That's why I'm going to keep doing it. And it took me a few years. And even now and then I'll have like some self-conscious like thoughts and, you know, should I really post this? Like, but I don't care anymore. Like, if you're gonna accept me for me, and if you don't, well, you don't even deserve to be in my life, and I don't have to pay you any mind. So that's what I think about that. Like, I'm gonna be my total self. And I love how, you know, Steven and Dr. Kojo, you talked about, you know, no blemishes over here. We're all real. You know, I'm showcasing, like, I'm tired. Like, this is me. This is the real. This is what it takes to give you guys the content that's out here. You know, I love that you mentioned that as well. And I just feel like just being totally and real in yourself just sets the standards and kind of just, you know, flips what everybody else thinks is the standard of social media that we're trying to break free away from.
Totally. And I think you've touched on a really good point. And I think that you're actually showing your resilience by kind of stepping into those vulnerabilities, right? And then by doing that, you're breaking those stigmas for other people. And so I just love that, you know, well, it was a struggle, and I acknowledge that. I'm really sorry. Like, people can be cruel. I love that you're pushing through. You're not letting that stop you. And it's kind of what we've been talking about today, right? It's that, you know, we step forward, we push forward, we persevere. So I would say, Wanika, you are the definition of resilience. If we can kind of circle back to the beginning. And one of the things I also thought of too is just kind of in that online space, and this is open to everybody, but, you know, kind of what have your experiences been around cyberbullying, and maybe what are those strategies that you're using to kind of combat that? Maybe
the first.
So even with just even going off of that, and that's where it came from, is the cyberbullying. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna be on social media. If I post this picture, sorry, everyone's gonna see this for the rest of my life, and they can take it and throw it up there and say mean things. And even one day, like with social media, me being cyberbullied, one of the most significant things that happened, I was in grade 11, and we went skating, like roller skating. I can't skate for my life. And it was like the rollerblades with the 4 wheels at the bottom. And we were going on this after school program trip, and most of the girls I wasn't cool with. I was probably cool with maybe like 2 of them. And I couldn't skate. And so I couldn't balance myself. And the table that I used to kind of stop myself when we were ready to go and take off our skates was so wobbly already. And I'm already like a thick girl, you know, and, you know, I have a disability and I couldn't grab with both hands. And so as soon as I touched it, it fell. So they thought, oh, you know, she's fat. That's why it flipped over. And they started doing all these things, and they took pictures and they actually posted it on Twitter. And one of my friends found it and showed it to me. My mom was furious. She went to the school board and everything. And I felt so embarrassed because, like, I don't want to look like this now, you know. But then that's where the cyberbullying began. I read all the comments. Social media, this is ridiculous, you know, and just dealing even with cyberbullying and dealing with negative comments, like, it really does eat people. Like, these people may not be saying it to your face, but you reading it, even you don't even realize sometimes that celebrities too, like big people, like, are affected, and you think, like, you know, they're these big people. Why do they care about a comment that one person says? You know, it really does affect people in their mental health. So
totally, we're all human, right?
Yeah. So dealing with the cyberbullying and just it's so hard because you can't control what people are gonna do, you know, and you can't stop them from being mean and saying mean things, but you can remember who you are, and that a lot of the things that they say aren't true, and remembering that they go through their own stuff as well, and you may not know what they're going through. And a lot of the times people bully because they're being bullied themselves, and they have to feel better about themselves. So they're going to go and belittle somebody else and make somebody else feel worse about themselves. So around that time is when I felt the real wrath of cyberbullying. But then after that, I realized that these people don't really know me and how I impact people and the cool person that I really am and all the things that I'm good and all the talents that I have and how I impact other people's lives. So I'm not paying them no mind. They're just a fly on the wall, and I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. And if they want to be mean, karma is a real thing, and that's not for me to deal with. That is what's going to happen with you, and I have nothing to do with that. So
exactly,
that's how I see
it. Dr. Kojo, I saw that you wanted to say some things.
Yeah, I think, for me, I do a lot of live interaction with my supporters, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and anytime I see something negative, like I'll go ahead and I'll use that as a teaching opportunity for everybody and say, hey, over here, we don't accept any type of, joke. We don't joke about people's religion, race, sex, sexual preferences. And sometimes you'll see trolls. So people will come in and they'll comment the same thing, but they'll switch up the words. And I block fast. I just block people really quickly. And, you just don't want there to be a space where people can act like that. So I was trying to address it. And I just block. I block. I don't even let it get into, my psyche. But people are going to do that, and it's coming from a place of insecurity within themselves. They're insecure, and they want to sometimes, unknowingly project it onto you, because they're not happy with how things are. So they want to say something to take you down or to take somebody else down who's in your stream with you. So, I like to say you can block somebody with love. I wish them the best of luck. But, I want there to be a safe space for people to be themselves. So you can't allow that type of energy to kind of, infiltrate the positive space that we're creating.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like you're kind of taking the initiative for where you can control, creating those safe spaces, which is amazing. Definitely an important thing to do. Stephen, any thoughts?
Yeah, I block quick too. Like it's honestly, one of the things that I hold dear to I find great importance is my energy. And people can throw around whatever energy they want, but it stops with me, and it stops where the boundary I've set. And like when I come to social media, this is a space that I can control. Like I can control the people that I follow. I can control the environment that my content exists in. Like Dr. Kojo was saying, like if he sees it, he calls it out, he blocks quick. Like it's purely that simple. And I'm actually like Monika, I feel for you, because like I did not grow up in the age of social media, and I'm so grateful, because that's so harmful. And it sometimes feels inescapable, especially like when, the rest of your schoolmates are on these platforms. It's their only way of having community. And then to have that space kind of be tarnished with just cruel energy that's really harmful. And I commend you for, setting that boundary and like rising above it.
Amazing. Thank you, Stephen. Dr. Inez, I'm hoping to get some of your thoughts. Do you see any correlations between what we've been talking about and mental health amongst youth in your research?
Yes, of course, because the social media is a place where all public debates, all political debates are located now. So when something happened for the Black youth or for the Black students, everything is reflected among the debates that we have on social media. And I just want to give an example. Last year there is an issue comes up regarding the use on the N word.
Mm-hmm.
And in Quebec, and many discussion around the academic freedom arose in the public debate, and this discussion do not allow place to for Black students to discuss their issues.
Yep.
The things that come up in this discussion is the way in which the professor that use used the N word was bullying. So, in fact, the cyberplace can be also a place where some marginalized group, when they are really silenced, when the cyberbullying prevent them to explain what they are going through.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we can resolve that, but most of the time you have an issue, you want to raise that publicly to explain what you are going through, what is exactly your feeling, but the cyberbullying comes up and you cannot express that. So your mental health is become very bad, and because you are not validated in your feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just noticing the time. Sorry, guys. I'm hoping that as we kind of wrap up this conversation, we can go to each of the panelists just to get your final thoughts, and then maybe kind of end with a piece of advice that you would give your younger self. So just a quick go around of your final thoughts and a piece of advice to your younger self.
I guess my final thoughts is just honestly protect your energy and protect your time. Those are the things that are irreplaceable. It's something that we all get a finite number of, and we don't know what it is. So we have to use it wisely. So finding ways to protect that is, I feel like it's just one of the things that in our lives that we have to really navigate. And I really encourage people to really explore that. And then just in a broader sense from the conversation about social media, like, figuring out what your relationship is to it, especially if it's causing a lot of stress and anxiety, and it's causing other things to affect either your physical well-being or affecting your life outside of this digital space. To really acknowledge what is actually going on and be honest with yourself about it, and take action from there. I think you were asking what I would tell my younger self.
Yes.
I think about this a lot, and I just wish my younger self would just chill for a bit, because I stressed so much trying to be perfect. And if someone just told me just chill, you don't have to be perfect, and it's going to be okay. You don't have to stress too much about that. You're going to be just fine.
Definitely. Thank you. What about you, Anika?
I think my final thoughts would be is to remember who you are, and remember that social media does not define who you are. You define who you are. You know who you are the best, and no one can tell you who you are. And to remember that your greatness, your talents, who you are in this world, and continue to explore your purpose as well, so that it's easier for you to separate from the social media world and get so caught up in what's going on that you kind of separate from your own self. That's what I found sometimes with myself, is when I got so warped into social media, I was kind of straying away from who I am as a person. So continue to tap into yourself and utilize social media as something that's going to help you grow, as something that's going to help you to succeed, and not just endlessly scroll watching other people's lives, which can also help you to limit your comparison to them as well. And also remember that, a lot of the times the social media things that you think that you're comparing yourself to is an illusion. People want you to see what they want you to see, unless they're like Dr. Kojo, who's straight up telling you, hey, this is what I've been up to. This is what I'm going through right now. I really took to that when he said it. That's why I keep mentioning it, because it's true. I love seeing that on social media when people are being so real with what they're going through. And it's just like, these are real people. And this is why they're amazing at the things that they do. They're letting us know, what it takes to be where they're at. So just remember those things. And I think advice that I would give to myself, my younger self, would be to, just keep going, and remember that the people who try to tell you who you are, and the names and the this and that, those people who doubt you, they really have no idea. just to keep pushing, and you'll show them exactly who you can be. I'll share with you, I got an R for talking so much in kindergarten. Not kindergarten, grade 1. They gave me or a needs improvement because I kept raising my hand all the time. And now I'm raising my hand and speaking all the time. So hey, they told my parents, oh, she talks too much, she raises her hand too much. Well, hey, this is what I'm doing right now.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you never know. So just continue to be who you are, and
Exactly.
do it unapologetically.
Exactly. Amazing. Thank you. Dr. Kojo.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Nika said, I think everybody has something that is within them that is of value to the world. So to lean into yourself, is one of the most authentic things you can do, and it's good for your mental health. To like let yourself be human, make mistakes, and be unapologetic about it. And as you do these things, it's going to raise your confidence because nobody has it all figured out. And sometimes we may make things harder on ourselves because we feel compelled to be a certain way. So, my takeaway is for people to understand that everybody has something that they can give that is of value. And when you recognize that, it gives you more reason to keep going, to keep pushing, to keep telling your story, to keep, sticking around. So that's definitely something that I wanted to say. And then in terms of what I would tell my younger self, I would just tell my younger self, kind of like what Steven said, be calm, like chill out, like you're on the right track. And if anything that I was going to add to that, it would just be not to worry about other people's opinions of you, because people sometimes project what they would do if they were in your situation, but they're not, So
Yes.
you know what people expect of you or want from you, but if that's not what you want, you'll never truly be happy. So understanding that people can have their opinions, but that should never override like your internal opinion of yourself. So that way you're not living in and dying off of people's criticism or praise. That's what I say.
Amazing. Thank you. And Dr. Inez, any final thoughts, and what would you say to your younger self?
Oh, I will sing the song of Nina Simone, Young, Gifted, and Black.
Yes.
And it's a song I would love to listen when I was young. I would say to the young people and to my younger self that you are gifted. You can do what you want. Do not define yourself by what you can do. Do not define yourself by the barrier that you face. This barrier is just a way to help you to be better.
Yes.
So keep going and raise what we need. Ask for help when you need this help. Do not hesitate to speak up for yourself, for your right. Create a community where change can happen, and this community would happen if you foster a community with people, and if you can thrive with this community. You cannot do things by yourself. You need people around, and it's a way to succeed. It's a way to change the situation for your community and for the society at large.
I love that. Yes. It's all about the community. Ooh, well, thank you so much, everyone. Our experiences, they shape who we are, and at times it fuels our passion to help others. So this roundtable conversation really gave us an opportunity to address mental health stigmas and barriers. We got to explore internal resilience as well as touching on external support systems. And I hope that this conversation brought support to youth and parents navigating the online world, offering a guide for where we want to go in the future. Thank you to our panelists for giving us their time, sharing their perspectives, and offering helpful strategies. And to our York University knowledge expert, Dr. Inez, for giving us a glimpse into the powerful research she's conducting and how it relates to youth mental health. Thank you to our audience for watching and joining the conversation. And if you'd like to support Unsinkable with a financial contribution, we've listed our Social for Good GoFundMe link in the comments, and donations will be invested to increase internal resources to deliver after-school care programs for youth while creating opportunities for youth to step away from their phones and become more involved in the community. As always, our resources are located in the comments, and please remember that your story matters, and together we are unsinkable. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.